Here we are. We are live with Corey Conway from the City of Champions.
That's it.
What's going on, Corey? What are you doing tonight?
I am talking with you two, and then I am going to work.
You off tomorrow night, right?
Yep. Never a night off for me, man. But yeah, so it was very interesting episode.
Yeah, tell me, overall, what'd you think of your game?
I played the way I wanted to play. I played aggressively. And at the end of the day, I ended up being loyal to the people I wanted to be loyal to. I knew I was going to have to come in and lie. I knew I was going to have to deceive. So I had to basically draw a line and be like, find the people that I wasn't going to like just blindside and vote out of the game unnecessarily. And then, it's like, I was going to have to play a role in certain groups and whatnot, but those people were never going to be the people I was going to be more loyal to. So I was happy with the game I played. Very much so.
So what'd you think of this episode in particular?
Let's see, this is a very interesting episode because, we're rounding third, going into the home stretch here. This is the end game now, and as funny as it might sound, this was probably the round I was the most comfortable going into Tribal, which is hats off to the people who ended up doing what they needed to do in this round because they had me fooled. They had me so fooled.
You looked pretty comfortable in that chair.
I know. I was going to say, you looked comfortable in that chair. I know around your neck. I got to say, in my opinion, just watching it all go down, you looked very overconfident in that situation.
Oh, man, the thing is like, for a few weeks, we had been planning that move. We had been, the one before that with Morgan, we'd been planning when it was going to happen. We planned out, who was going to be there, and 90% or 95% of what we had planned weeks in advance was right there in front of us, and we pulled it off. So I was just on a high after that. It should have been a sign. McKenna's absolutely right.
Every Survivor fan says this. They watch the show, they're like, it's never an easy vote. It looks too, when it's too easy, it isn't, right? And then you're in that situation.
The thing is that I built such genuine bonds with a few individuals in this game, even people that were mad at me at certain points. It's like with Denny, the bond that she and I built was very, very genuine. I think that's why you see how emotional she is in a lot of her confessionals and how upset she is with me, is because it was so genuine. I'm a 2 feet in or none at all kind of person. So if I'm going to go in, I am in, and it's very real. I don't disconnect outside relationships from the game as much as other people do. So the bonds I made with Carrie, for instance, I never thought in a million years Carrie would do what happened in that episode. But initially I thought maybe she was the one who masterminded it. Then I started thinking, it was Denny. But if it would have been Carrie, I would have been so proud, though, because she was getting so much heat during the game about how close she and I were, and how out in the open I was and how not so much she was. During challenges and whatnot, we'd be in the breakout room and she'd be a little bit like, I don't know if I can do this section of the challenge. You can do it. And I would sit out and watch, and she would do it. And I'd be jumping up and down cheering and whatnot. I was so proud of the things that she was able to do in the game and overcome. Those are the things I enjoy watching from the people around me in the game, is watching their journeys as well as my own. So
I do remember in one challenge in particular, it was an individual immunity challenge, and it was with I think it was just this recent one with the card tossing, and you said to Carrie, I probably shouldn't be giving you this advice because you had an opportunity to re-rack one time during the challenge, and you were giving her advice on when to re-rack her stack because she didn't really know the concept of the game as much as everyone else.
Right. That's, at the end of the day, it didn't matter to me whether I was against you or with you. I was going to be myself and not play a character. I was going to be myself. So that's, I guess, one of the reasons why I was most proud of my game, is because I never wasn't who I am. So
I do have to ask you, so you touched on Denny a little bit. You guys kidnapped Denny to your tribe, and then that whole situation with the idol happened.
yes.
Do you think you shot yourself in the foot by not giving Denny that idol like Frank suggested you should have?
I didn't. And the reason why was because, well, throughout the couple of days, I suppose. Personally, I'm a person that likes to think everything through before I do it anyway, so I wasn't going to just do anything like that for anybody and just hand something over without thinking it through. But as the days were going on when she was with us, text messages that were exchanged, maybe even a chat. I thought it was in a chat, but I looked back through messages and I was piecing together how I came to this conclusion through messages. I got the impression that she was pretty entrenched into Miami and that she was going to be okay. So that's why I didn't think I had shot myself in the foot too much. I had no idea, because she obviously didn't let it on to me that she was upset, like really upset. So I had no reason to think she was mad at me at that point. I thought it was way later in the game that her anger got to the level it got with everything happening with Mike after the merge. That's when I thought our relationship in the game was starting to deteriorate, not days and days before. So I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because originally it was Frank was supposed to go get it, right?
Well, here's what happened. Okay, so initially I said to Frank, go get it. And I was serious. And maybe after about 20 or 30 seconds, and he just kept on rambling and didn't stop. One of the things that really drove me to go and get it was I wanted to find out if someone else had already found it or not, too. That was something that I thought about. I was like, oh, man, I would like to see if it is still in there. But then, obviously, when you get it, you're like, I've got an idol. You know?
Yeah.
There's a selfish greed that comes with that.
You were a little sneaky with that move.
It wasn't. The thing is, I wasn't trying to be sneaky, because I said to, if I wanted to be sneaky about it, I wouldn't have told them that I got it. Because when Ryan messaged me the idol document, I was like, hey guys, I've got it. I mean, I wasn't trying to be sneaky, but it comes off that way, and I understand why.
It definitely does a little bit, because you have to look at it from the two other people that
Absolutely.
are in the situation with you. And I just think that's a big thing where I think it could have been beneficial for you potentially to let maybe Frank have it. Just
that is true.
In terms of a target, I think it would have been better for him to have it instead of yourself.
You know, and the thing is also, as things happened throughout those couple of days, Denny and Frank were they weren't meshing very much. I felt like I was kind of in the middle trying to because she was nervous about some of the things he wanted to tell the specialists on the coda. He was getting frustrated with her. And I was in the middle there for a bit. And both of them at one point messaged me. Frank was like, well, thank God you didn't give her the idol. And then Denny said to me at one point, she's like, I'm happy you have it because that means we have it. I think that's what the wording in the message was. So both of them at one point told me they were happy that I had it and that the other didn't. So yeah, I had no reason to suspect that anything had really seriously damaged my game at that point.
I want to talk about Frank for a second. You know, you guys are obviously a pretty tight pair in the game. Pre-game, he's a specialist, obviously, you're at TRHS. And you guys went at each other a little in the mini. So
yes, we did.
What happened in between those games? But pre-game, did you see yourself if you guys got on the same tribe working together, or did that just kind of come about when you?
Oh, absolutely not. I was under the impression that if we started on day one on separate tribes, Frank was never going to be somebody I worked with.
Yeah.
Frank is the kind of player where he gets allies early and he sticks to them. Mm-hmm. So coming into the game, I had two promises that I was going to make to people, and that was I was going to make a final 2 deal, and that was with Denny, and I wasn't going to break that. I was willing to go to the final 2 with the person I promised that to, even if it lost me the game in finals. The other promise I was going to make coming in was I'm going to find a really strong strategist player and promise them a final 4 deal and say, you and me compete against each other in that challenge, man to man, man to woman, and may the best person win and go to the finals, and the other be the final juror. So when we swapped tribes and Frank Goldpaster was on my tribe, he's got a little bit of an ego, you know? And I knew the second he wound up on my tribe, he's the one. He's the one to initiate this Final Four deal with. I didn't initiate that during the pregame. I had to assess my tribe once the game got started. It wasn't even a hesitation. He was the one.
That's awesome.
And then, you mentioned egos a little bit there. I think there were a lot of egos on this season.
Absolutely, mine included. Frank and I filmed a couple of things that didn't make it into the episodes, what we called Night's Watch videos, because that's what we called our alliance, because we work at night. And that's a Game of Thrones reference. We called ourselves the Night's Watch Alliance, and we filmed Night's Watch Alliances to get videos together. And it wasn't even about us strategizing. It was just about us basically tooting our own horns about the game that we were playing. And so I'm kind of happy those didn't make it into the episode. But yeah, working with a person like Frank, and then seeing the fruit of your hard work growing in front of you, that definitely makes you get a little, that boosts your ego a little bit.
What was it like, the Night's Watch, you say, what was it like working after these tribals and stuff? Because I've heard people say that, like, it affects their sleep and they can't sleep after, they're thinking so much. Like, so was it kind of like nice not having to sleep after tribals? You get up all night and you're just thinking about it anyway?
Yes, because I was able to talk with people at times where others weren't able to talk. Mm-hmm. I was able to, like, if somebody wanted to talk at a time that others wouldn't be, I was always available. And then I get home in the mornings and I go to sleep when others are at work, and then I'm up in the afternoons for hours before leading up to challenges and tribals. So I was always up and ready at the times that others wanted to talk game. So it was very, very, very beneficial.
So did you and Frank just like talk all night then?
Man, there were times, especially on the nights where I was at work and he was at home, because he's got a pretty busy job. So there'd be times where when he's at work, he wouldn't be able to talk as much. But on the nights when he would be off and he would just sit on his couch, sprawled out like he does in some of his confessionals and stuff, he and I chatted. The longest one we did once was like 6.5 hours or something, just bullshitting and talking strategy and running so many scenarios through that never even came into the game. Crazy scenarios, like what would happen if somebody played an idol, and like if we could do something like split a minority vote and try to force the others to, there's so many things we talked about.
Well,
so many things.
I don't know how you guys find the time for that. That's wild. God bless all you players.
Crazy. That's why.
Ryan, you got to play a season.
Absolutely not.
I know.
Yeah, man. Come on. Got to get out there.
Ryan would be too big of a threat. Let's be real.
That's crazy.
All right, Corey, I want to talk a little bit about the early days on Dakota, especially because you guys did not have to go to many tribal councils. So the 2 tribal councils that you had to go to, in your opinion, obviously we saw Sam vote, super, super easy vote. But I want to talk about the Annabelle vote. I want to know what your perspective was on how that all unfolded.
My perspective was obviously a very individualized one that, when you hear after the game is over what other people's perspectives was, you go, oh, okay, interesting. That makes sense. My perspective was that we had just pulled off an amazing thing. Like, we actually got them to trust us. That I thought it was more of the TRHS people getting the specialists to trust us, whereas they were trying to get us to trust them.
So did they come to you with the idea to let Annabelle go, or did you come to them?
It happened that they apparently came up with it when they were thinking about it, and they were like, if we don't do the Annabelle vote, then Frank is just going to vote with the TRHS people anyway. It would have just broken up Nakota the way we just did with Morgan in the post merge. It would have just did it way earlier and fractured our tribe a lot. So they approached Frank, I think, and then Frank came and relayed that to us. And honestly, it was like in baseball when a team bunts trying to advance a runner from first to second. And what you do is you don't try and take that. We could have gone after a big threat like Ian and Morgan right then and there. But instead of trying to be a hero and throw to second, you just scoop the ball up, throw to first, take the out that they give you. That's the way we looked at it. We had to be very patient.
So they came to you guys with the complete game plan of, hey, we want to get rid of Annabelle because it's going to be beneficial for the group then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And obviously we were thinking that we had something to do with it, like we had manipulated people, but in all honesty, it makes sense. They approached us because they wanted to keep the tribe unified. So
I want to ask you a little bit about, you obviously had a couple potential number ones in the game. Who was your ultimate end game people?
My ideal final three would have been Carrie and Denny. That was who I had actually made a 3-person alliance with in the pregame, and then I got onto a tribe with Carrie and got very tight with her over there because I had to. And so as the game was going on, I think I always wanted to go to the final 2 with Denny when we needed to get, when we got back together. But I was nervous about what was happening on the other tribe. I was nervous. I knew that she was tight with Mikey during the pregame, and I particularly wasn't. There was a message that was exchanged between Logan and Mikey. Logan went and told Mikey something that I had said and embellished it a little bit. So immediately Mikey is a little bit like, oh, Corey is going to come after me when he gets a chance, which really wasn't the case. It was just a little embellished. So then Denny comes to me and says, Logan told Mikey this. So now Mikey's weary of you. So now all of a sudden I'm weary of Mikey. So then when I know she's aligned with him on the other tribe, I'm like, that's a guy I'm not going to be able to fully trust, and he's never going to fully trust me. Like, if Denny's going to be my number one, I need her to let him go in favor of me. And, obviously what happened when we stole her on Nakota, she was a lot more holding on to him because of it. And it makes perfect sense now. It all comes full circle.
So we saw at the beginning of the merge where obviously there were many, many days in between the merge. Everyone had so much time to talk and communicate. Apparently there was a 6 formed that included Pook in that 6. So was that ever your intention to have that 6 happen?
I was the last one to give the okay to that, and I was the first one to hop off. So if it meant working with Denny, then yes, I was okay with it. At that time, I still thought that I could get her to be with me more than anybody else in the game. So watching it back now, it's kind of like, well, it's kind of a good thing because I probably would have been on the bottom of that. So I was okay with it a little bit. I kept telling Frank at one point, I was like, because Logan wanted to work with Mikey and Denny. So he was the one that really brought the group. Logan was the one who was instrumental to bringing that 6 together. And I kept saying to Frank throughout those days, I was like, why are we letting Logan be the one to dictate this? Because I'm nervous as hell. Nervous as hell. Oh, Logan, I don't hate you. I was just concerned, buddy. That's not my fault. But yeah, so I was willing to go along with that 6 for a while. But one of the things I did think about was I do have a connection with Rob. So if I ever need to try and utilize that later to go after Mikey or Frank, even if I started to feel that he wasn't really truly with me, like I was going to have to try and pull some strings with some other connections.
So at the merge too, was there anyone in particular that you did not want to see there at all?
Yes, and that would be McKenna. I never met her before, or spoken to her up until that point. But on the very first night when we got swapped in the beginning, I got into a one-on-one chat with Ian, and Ian mentioned to me that he and McKenna and Morgan had been extremely tight during their pre-gaming. So my thought was that if McKenna made it to the merge, that was the scariest person on the Miami tribe who could potentially put a wedge between the Nakota specialists and the Nakota TRHS. McKenna was a very scary figure for me as she kept surviving tribals and TRHS people were going. on the other side, and McKenna's just still there. She's kicking. She's going. Looks like she's in the driver's seat. That was scary.
Ryan, do you want to pull up that comment McKenna said?
This one.
This one. McKenna has a question for you, Corey.
I didn't say that I was such a great player. I didn't say that. I was proud of my game.
Corey, are you such a great player?
That's up to other people to decide. That's not up to me to decide. I was proud of the game that I played.
As you should be. I talked to Mikey about this a few nights ago. Ponderosa, man. What was your, obviously don't give away what happens in the future from now and there, but what was your experience? Because it gets a little heated on Ponderosa. Were you part of that, or?
At times I was, but then I was also like, I removed myself from some conversations at times and just kind of put it on mute and didn't look at it for a few days. At all.
Is it just because, like, I know everybody, personally is good with each other, but, like, it gets, way more heated there than it does in the game. And is that just everybody's pissed and bitter? They're all just yelling at each other?
I think that's partially true. I think there's a lot of different perspectives. And obviously, when people are going into Ponderosa, those are people that had such completely different games from one another at times, especially the way things were going. Like Ian and Mikey, for instance, and Morgan. Those are the three that I've now joined at Ponderosa. You couldn't have a more different three people to join into Ponderosa. Morgan's, she's very kind and thoughtful of other people, and then Mikey is a character, and he always is, and he speaks his mind, and then sometimes has to retract what he says and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Mikey is Mikey's Mikey, and then Ian isn't going to put up with some of that stuff. So definitely coming in there, it was interesting.
So what was your role? You said those three. What were you?
In there?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was the guy who just needed comforting after I just got blindsided by my friends.
So who did you turn to for comfort?
Okay, so I definitely talked with Mikey quite a bit. Because I knew he was very tight with Denny. So we had some chats together about what had just gone down. I talked with Ian, and then he and I actually went out and had dinner together. It was great because I was like, hey, listen, man, I was responsible for what happened to you. Just like Denny said, and you guys didn't, the players left didn't believe her at the time, but I was responsible. So let me take you out, my treat. Let me take you out to dinner. So that was cool.
Man, I bought Ian dinner too. He's just eating off us. That bastard.
Ian's the smart one.
Yeah.
Ian's the smart one.
Sides.
Still playing the game.
Yeah, he's the smart one. He's the charmer in the group.
Yeah, man.
All right, so Corey, I have to ask. Obviously, they vote you out and everything. Yeah. Who do you think it was the best game move to do that to you? But who do you think it was bad for their game?
Honestly, I can't see anybody it being bad for their game. Maybe the one person I would say, Rob, I wasn't going to cut him even though he was so mad at me. I wasn't going to just go right after him, which is kind of what at one point Frank and Logan were both kind of like, we're going to have to do that. And I was not on board for it. So I guess to a degree, maybe it's a detriment to Rob's game because he did have a loyal ally in me. But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, Denny needs to get out the people that are going to be threats to her to win, and Carrie needs to have a resume. Phil and Jeremy need to survive. So, Corey, good. Jeremy's mindset, he just backstabbed me for a couple weeks. I am totally fine with that. So, it was more good for their games than bad. What was my biggest mistake? My biggest mistake in this game was when Rob came to me telling me that he was making an alliance with Morgan using that idol that he was offered by you guys as leverage to create trust with her. I should have told him straight up from the very beginning, I'm not going with them. I'm with TRHS, but listen, if you want to do this, we can do it together. We can be double agents together and be on the same page, as opposed to just playing him like I was playing all the rest. That would have not burned a bridge with him, and he would have been loyal to me just like I would have been to him. So if I would have told Rob day one, let's go in there and do it, but let's do it together with a long-term plan, I think that was my biggest mistake, was not just letting Rob basically do it without telling him what I really intended to do.
But do you think he would have gone along with that if you said, hey, this is the game plan, let's go in together, act like we're with them? Do you honestly think he would have gone for that?
I think he would, because what I would have done was I would have been honest about this, because I obviously went after Logan tonight to go with Rob and Carrie and Denny. I would have said to him, look, we work with Frank and Logan for the time being, but when we get together with Denny and we have Carrie already with us, she was tight with Rob and myself. I'm like, we're gonna pull the rug out from Frank and Logan on our term. We're not gonna use specialists. We're gonna do it ourselves. And I think because he was not liking how much control it seemed that Frank and Logan had in the tribe. That's why he turned to the specialists. So if he had a long-term plan to pull the rug out from under Frank and Logan, then I think he would have been on board for it.
Denny disagrees.
If you hadn't done what you did to Rob, I would have pulled Logan in for the extra number. That's probably true. I guess both are major mistakes.
It's hard to play a perfect game.
I don't know.
Or you should have just played your idol and you would have been okay.
I had no reason to think that I was going home that night.
So not one part of you considered it at all?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
I was bamboozled.
I know you were chilling in that big comfy chair.
Yes, I was. And the thing is, it's like that was a major mistake, but I don't know. It's so hard for me to think right now.
Well, which this makes me turn back to this question. Do you think if you wouldn't have been the one that had the idol in your possession, say Frank had the idol, do you think they maybe would have gone for Frank instead of you?
Yeah, probably. It's impossible to say what would have gone down, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, if I had felt that Denny was in imminent danger going back to Miami, I would have given her the idol, no doubt. We all were anticipating a swap. None of us believed we were going to go all the way to the merge without any swaps at all, except for the one round we swapped. And with the connections that she had over on Miami, and with the connections even in the limited time that she was getting to make with Nakota specialists, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, I was like, I think that I'm going to be I'm going to be an immediate vote out at a swap if I'm on with McKenna and John and Andrew or Phil or somebody. Like, they're all going to just take me out. Whereas that was my reasoning behind it. I was like, Denny, I think I need to hold on to this, because if you seem entrenched over there, you seem like you're safe. You know, it's a risk one way or the other. You're risking your life or you're risking somebody else's.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. So I have to ask, would you play this game again?
I would play this game again. I'm taking a little break right now. But I would absolutely. At first, when the game was over and everybody was talking after the game was over, I was like, I told someone, I said, I'll play this game tomorrow if they ask me. Now, as I'm watching the episodes, I'm like, I do need a little break. But ask me after the new year, and I'll hit that beach again.
Wow. Love that, man.
Yeah.
I got anything else for us?
I don't think so. You guys have any more questions? I love answering questions.
Okay, I can ask you one more question here. Oh, so you say you would play again. What do you need to do differently the next time?
The thing I need to do next time is I need to realize that not everybody's going to play the same way I do. And by that, I mean, like, I'm a person that lets water under the bridge type deal. Like, if you do something to somebody, they're going to hold on to the anger and frustration. Maybe. Just because I'm not a person who stays angry with people for very long doesn't mean others aren't. So, like, I focus 75% of my attention on the present and another 25% on the future and 0% on the past. Like, the past for me means nothing. I can only focus on the now and future. If I was to play this game again, I'd probably focus a little more on past decisions and how that's going to affect people in the now and future of the game.
I guess this strikes one more question for you as well. Is there anyone in particular in this game that you never had a chance to work with that you wanted to work with?
As I've gotten to know John after this game was over, John seems like he's a fantastic dude. Great sense of humor. He's very friendly and has a good mind for this stuff. I think John is a fantastic guy, and I would love to get to know him even more and to maybe play with him someday, or would have loved to have played with him in this game. I think he and I would have meshed very well.
That's what it's all about sometimes. It's who you get stuck with and who you don't get stuck with. And then you see afterwards, oh, I could have worked with this person really well. And so that's the way the game goes.
Honestly, like, I loved everybody I got to play this game with. I meshed on a personal level with Morgan and Ian and Jeremy. I love everybody I got to play this game with, even though I was playing them. But I came in here and I made great relationships and great friendships that I'm going to carry with me forever.
I think a lot of people made really good relationships with people, and that's just how crazy the game is. You get really close with people, and then it gets tougher and tougher as the game goes on to actually vote people out.
Yes, it does.
Well, hey, man, we appreciate you playing. Did a good job. Hope you had fun.
Thank you, both of you, and for Denise and everybody that puts all of their blood, sweat, and tears into the production side of this. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for having all of us and for everything you guys do.
Of course, man.
We appreciate that. It was a heck of a ride. It's been a blast, and the episodes are only going to get better and better from here.
Yes, they are.
Spoiler alert. All right.
Oh.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye.